right, welcome everybody to our information session on the Journal of Law and Innovation. We're delighted to have all of you here. This is, to me, one of the signature pillars of what I think we are of the exceptional law and technology program we're creating here at Penn Law, and it's a sign to me of how important, what a major part of that students really are. Before I continue any more further, I would like to make a couple of logistical housekeeping announcements, just to make sure everybody knows we are recording today's session. And for those of you who have colleagues who are unable to attend, we will make that publicly available, so all this information will be there. But just wanted to make sure all of you who are participating knew that it was being recorded, and we will take questions at the end. So please feel free, if you have things that occur to you, you'll have opportunity to talk about them, and we would really welcome that to bring you in. So this is part of what I think is a very unique experience here at Penn. Part of it is unlike any other journal experience at Penn, and unlike most journal experiences I know of at any law school. And it is built around a deep commitment of two basic commitments. One is to create really an exceptional law and technology program that integrates the two disciplines in ways that it's not just, we're going to do a bunch of legal analysis on a subject that's technological. We're really going to try to do this in a way that integrates the perspectives to a degree that no one else has done. The second part of it, though, is CTIC is deeply committed to having a program that really represents an integration of the entire law school community. What you'll see is there are many programs which are faculty-oriented, but which students have very little impact on students. And in fact, even though we have a world-class faculty program, students don't benefit and often don't even know it exists. There are other programs that are entirely student-oriented, which there is no faculty interaction. I'm glad we have those programs, but to me, they both are missed opportunities. To me, the richest, the strongest program is when there's a deep integration where you have a strong faculty and student community that integrate in ways and interact in ways that provide opportunities for learning, for doing new kinds of work that I think many other schools or many other programs just don't achieve. And so that's just a very important vision of mine. It is a long legacy here from the Penn Intellectual Property Group, which I hope many of you are members of. And they have always, with CTIC support, done an annual conference that, and I mean this is a compliment in the highest terms. They put together programs I never would have thought of putting together. I mean, really innovative ones, inviting people, because there's no monopoly on good ideas. And I think, in fact, students bring a different perspective and a different energy to projects like this. Next extension of it for us is we really believe that there needed to be a journal at the heart of any program like this. We wanted to make it, we could have made a Journal of Law and Technology, but it is styled as the Journal of Law and Innovation for good reason, because I think it really is all about innovation. And it has ended up being, to me, one of the centerpieces of the student experience for law and technology here, and has come together in a way that exceeded any hopes I had when we organized this. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Gerald Adams, who is the editor, who's not only the co-president of the Penn Intellectual Property Group, but more importantly for today's function, today's event, is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Law and Innovation. Gerald.
Thank you, Professor Yoo. Let's try to show these slides. Okay, can everyone see them? Great. Yeah, so just as Professor Yoo said, really the process behind JLI and the purpose that we try to achieve is we really want to provide a unique journal experience. And that takes on multiple fronts, right? We want to be able to provide a collaborative and more integrated environment across students. Something that was realized very early on is that journals are typically not the most interactive of formats. It's typically assigned edits and moving forward. And we also wanted to provide a platform for engagement with scholarship. And that includes the outside authors that we bring in, but also the individuals and scholars that may participate in the symposium that we hold every year. So in terms of structure, what we try to achieve and what we've done is we provide a faculty-led seminar in the fall. That seminar will be oriented around the topic for that given year in that journal volume, where a CTIC faculty member will lead that seminar. And it's really an engaging and thorough analysis that's based on student interaction and student development. So this year, the topic has been innovation in criminal justice. Our faculty advisor, David Abrams, led the seminar over the fall, and we had 26 journal members that were involved in that seminar. So it was a very thorough and robust discussion across multiple fronts. We covered several things from algorithmic bias to surveillance, to the police state and the emerging technology environment that is being presented there. That then follows with our annual symposium. So this year, the symposium will be on January 28th, which we'll discuss further in the upcoming slides. But it provides a nice transition of going through these robust discussions that you've had with your classmates to an interaction with outside scholarship that occurs during the symposium. That really then leads directly into our editing process throughout the spring, where we provide what I think is a fairly unique editing process in that prior to any sort of blue booking, site check, source hunt, anything like that, we tend to establish meetings and one-on-ones with the authors that are providing the scholarship themselves so that you can have a better baseline and understanding of the work that you're going to be editing. And our hope is that it's a more comprehensive understanding of the topic for the year, of the scholarship that you're working with, and that you really get a thorough educational experience from the journal. We do allow people to be members of other journals. The journal is not exclusive. I would say a large majority of our staff is on another journal, whether that be Law Review or another secondary journal. And then there is a slight correction. It is 4 course credits for the course. So 2 credits for the seminar in the fall, and then you will receive 2 credits for the edit in the spring. Some current and past topics that we've worked through. So as I said, this year is innovation in criminal justice. Last year, obviously, given we were in the heart of the pandemic, a very natural topic was innovation in time of crisis and dealing with COVID-19 and vaccinations and how that can be distributed, as well as the affiliated intellectual property aspects that come along with patent law and so forth. As you can see, we tried to run the gamut and provide a very diverse experience. So last year, very much so, was well within the expertise and ideas of those that are focused in life sciences and life science patents. This year is very much more on a privacy bent, right, with the surveillance state and an analysis of all these criminal justice features. So for students that do have a particular interest, there is a strong likelihood that the topic for a given year may fall within that. However, we do try to provide a very thorough, robust, and diverse experience so that even if the topic for that given year maybe doesn't fall directly within what you're interested in, I can assure you that the discussions, that the readings that are assigned, that all of the interaction that goes on will in some way, shape, or form fall within what you're interested in. And our hope is that it really broadens your perspective and you find, new ideas, new topics, new materials that kind of pique your interest. So, and I will say the topic for next year has not been established yet. We're working on finalizing who will be the faculty member who is leading the journal for next year. But that being said, as you can see, it's always something highly interesting, and that will continue in course this year. So some things about the application process. I would say first and foremost, one thing that is not on these slides that is highly important is we do take into consideration your interest in the journal itself. And that may seem like an odd thing to show or articulate, but the easiest way is we do have our symposium for this year's volume on the 28th of January. Your attendance is recognized and noted. It shows your interest in the journal. And we really appreciate having the 1L students attend the symposium. We think you provide great perspectives And it helps us as a journal staff start to integrate and meet and understand your perspectives and get to know you, so that it's a more seamless transition next year if you do apply and join the staff. In supplement to that, we do have a write-on process. We usually do it in March, so the applications come out in early March. We usually set the deadline for in late March. That being said, it is not of the extent and rigor of law review's write-on process, so you shouldn't expect that it's something that's going to take up the full 2 weeks of your time while you're in the midst of classes and other things. But we do expect that it's something that you take seriously, that you're cognizant of, and that you provide substantive and very thorough work on. It is by no means easy. I just don't want to scare anyone off thinking that it's going to be a huge 70-page law review packet. It is not. But as it shows here, your work and your response to that edit process is taken into account. That's in conjunction with overall law school performance, as you'd expect with any other journal. Your performance is a consideration and a factor. It is not the only factor, and I do not want that to dissuade anyone from applying. We try to take a comprehensive approach to your application, and your GPA is not going to bar you from admittance. And that being said, it's not going to guarantee it either. So it is a factor, but it is not the only factor. And then last, in conjunction with what I said earlier about showing your interest, we really like to see individuals who have taken at least one law and innovation class. Those are any class that's taught by a CTIC faculty member. I know for a fact at least 2 this year are internet law and intro to intellectual property. Professor Yoo may be able to note if there are others, but we really like to see that as part of the application process. And we have had individuals in the past who maybe have not been able to meet that requirement during 1L year, but show that commitment during their 2L fall by taking one of the affiliated classes as well. So really, I think the biggest thing is please take note of all of these, as well as note the symposium on the 28th of January. All of these components really come together in your application. They're all taken note of. We try to provide a comprehensive review process, and we really expect you to provide performance on all of these fronts. And last, I mean, getting back to what we started at the beginning of the presentation, it really is, it's a wonderful community that we've brought together. Myself, I came from a STEM background, and I really wanted to find a group of students who had that interest in technology and law. It's not present at every school. It's not present in a significant degree at every school. It is here, and we have made a very conscious effort to help continue to, provide a culmination of a very engaging experience for students that have that interest. And we recognize that it's a very diverse intersection, right? Students may find their interest in an array of areas, and we try to provide the opportunity for all of those to blend and come together. It's really more than anything I could have ever asked for in terms of not only a journal experience, but also a community experience. Some of my best friends at the law school are affiliated with the journal, are affiliated with the student groups that interact with CTIC, and students who have taken the courses that fall within the umbrella of our CTIC professors. It really has been wonderful. I've made great connections with people, not only within my class, but within the classes above me who have now moved on, that I continue to talk to, individuals that are now at firms and are thriving and enjoying themselves, but also the students that are our associate editors this year. Obviously, it was a slightly odd situation where everyone was remote last year, and so there was some struggles or barriers to establishing those connections. I can say by having the seminar this year with JLI, where we had all of the associate editors together, I made very significant connections with our 2L class, which is something that I don't believe everyone that's in 3L class can say. So I would really encourage you to apply, especially if you're interested. Even if it's a slight interest, I can assure you that that interest will grow. But please give yourself the opportunity to make that connection, to have this experience, because it really is unparalleled, and you will thoroughly enjoy it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Professor Yoo, to provide any additional insight that I may have missed. But again, welcome all of you. It's great to meet each of you, albeit through Zoom, but please reach out to me, and I hope we get to interact more going forward.
Well, that's fantastic, Gerald. Thank you. A couple of quick thoughts as I was just sitting here thinking, it occurred to me just looking at the topics. We did COVID last year, and it's one of the criminal law and innovation, given the current debate, questions about equity in criminal law enforcement, it's kind of hard to imagine a more appropriate topic and a more timely one. It's really worked out quite well, and it's one of those things what we've taken is really had a neat chance to explore different aspects as we go through. A couple things to emphasize. One is the writing competition is structured so that you will have an answer to whether you are admitted to the Journal of Law and Innovation prior to the writing competition that occurs after exams, 1L exams in May. So it is up to you. You will have the information you need to decide what journal experience you're looking for. And just to emphasize, the fact that you get class credit for taking this class, curricular class credit, relieves your workload burden in ways that allows students to participate in both journals. If you just did them both as an extracurricular matter, it might be a lot, but the idea is to combine your educational experience with your journal experience in ways that make that possible. The other thing that was interesting to me is something we just didn't explain. As Gerald said, we have 26 2L members. And we had the similar thing when Gerald was a 2L the previous year, and we had 8 members, I think, of that class became the senior board members as 3Ls. And so the members of the current 26 members of the 2L class will be asked if they're interested and will apply for positions for being the board. So when you do this, some small number of the current 2Ls will be there in the room serving in the capacity that Gerald is. They will have the opportunity to take the seminar a second time, and because the topic constantly changes, that can be a very invigorating, and that's a great educational experience in and of itself. And that also gives you the chance to interact with the 2L, with the interaction between 2Ls and 3Ls that Gerald was talking about. And the last point I was going to make was on the slide that Gerald closed on, which is the slide after this one. In case you're wondering where these pictures are from, it's not just meeting in class, having a conference and editing. We support and supplement it with a series of social events through the entire year. Some events are designed for a CTIC faculty to interact with students, which is a kind of on a social basis, which is usually at a happy hour. That's the kind of interaction that there aren't enough opportunities to have in the school, particularly with people in a focused subject matter who are interested in the same things that you are. And then we also support team building exercises just for the journal staff, so the students to interact with each other. And as I said earlier, you hope that communities come together, but when you put those sorts of things, assemble those sorts of opportunities, you never quite know how well they're going to gel. And I remember when we launched this journal 5 years ago, we had aspirations, but we thought, well, maybe they'll just get along and it'll be positive. What's happened is the journal has really turned into perhaps the central or one of the central experiences that students interested in law and technology come together over, exchange, and find each other and develop the kind of friendships that Gerald was talking about. And so it's actually that when I said it exceeded my expectations, that culture has been here. I'm well aware with students, particularly with upper class organizations, institutional memory is basically 1 year, because the only people who are there are the 2Ls this year will be continuing on to the next year. So it's a culture we make and remake every year. But I've just seen it thrive for 5 consecutive years in a way that I've always been grateful for, and I think has now become, once it's got that much legacy, it's likely to become a central part of the experience of students who share the interest in law and technology and law and innovation in this space. That's all the things I thought to add. If there's Gerald, do you have anything else? If not, we'll open up to questions.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy to open it up to questions and answer any questions you may have.
Is Mr. Ronnie.
Yeah, hi. I just have a question about the fact that we're going to get credit for this. So, is there a potential that this could be like a scheduling conflict in terms of like selecting classes in the fall, and how should we, be aware of that and make sure it doesn't turn out to be a problem?
There's no question it can become a scheduling conflict. The class is taught as a seminar. It's usually taught in the seminar slot, which is 4:30 to 6, although not always taught in the seminar slot. Often, like say on a Monday or Tuesday. And if there were another seminar class that you needed, it does happen. Usually 1 or 2 students who go through the competition find that to be a problem. For those students, they often will act as editors during the spring semester and then have the opportunity to take the class as in the fall as a seminar participant of their 3L year, and often continue on as board members in that capacity. So we've been flexible. We try to work it out as best we can. I still remember there was one 2L who went on to be a board member, was in tears because she was a JD MBA student, and she was assigned to a section in the business school classes that conflicted directly with the section. And for understandable reasons, the business school was extremely reluctant to move students for almost any reason. They have a hard and fast rule not to allow that happen. But actually, it all worked out for her. And so she ended up, for some reason, I don't know exactly how it worked out, but she was able to work it out so that she didn't have that conflict anymore. I'd like to say we'd work it for every student. I'll say we'll work we can, but when you talk about this many schedules, the idea that you can make everything work out conflict-free would be remarkable. And so we'll just do the best we can, and we've been pretty successful in the past.
Awesome. I'm also a JD MBA, so that's super helpful. Thank you.
Well, the other reality about this is, just for those of you who are enjoying degree programs, JD MBA students are always short. One of the experiences you'll have, which may not be as apparent to you now as 1Ls, that you will have non-instructor credits coming out your ears. Many people do, because if you're on a journal that doesn't have doesn't have a faculty member supervising it, or you do moot court, you do a number of other opportunities, you get those. But to sit for the bar, you have to have a certain number of classes taught by law faculty. And the joint degree students, because they have so many of their classes taught by interdisciplinary faculty, often struggle to do that. And so I think for them, having this journal styled as a faculty-led class allows them to avoid that, have a journal experience without running afoul of or having to take overloads to make up for the fact that they are doing so many things at the same time. Ms. Levin.
Hi. I just have a quick question. Maybe I missed this. So I know this year's topic or symposium is like around criminal justice. How do you choose the symposium topics? Is it like that you collaborate and decide on it? Yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Traditionally, the topic has been a function of which faculty member leads the seminar in a given year. As I said a minute ago, I believe that criminal law and innovation is a very important topic. I will say that had I led the journal this year, despite my awareness of its importance, I'm not really qualified to teach that seminar. It's outside my expertise. And so what we do is it rotates among different faculty over the years. You'll see in each of those cases, there was actually a different faculty member leading the symposium, and we have yet to duplicate any of those faculty. I take it back. Professor Wagner taught last year. Code did it with another faculty member the very first year we did it. That will not last forever. We will start doubling up on people, and that's good just because in the natural run, but a 3 or 4 year rotation is very natural. So we will not know until the process of putting together curriculum, which the administration is doing right now, will not know that actual topic. What we discovered is students generally who are interested in this space have applied, and just because you're admitted to the journal, you're not obligated to do it in the fall. Most students do it regardless of the topic, because the topics tend to be chosen in ways that bring out issues that would be of general interest to everybody and to anyone who has interest in the law and innovation space. And so the lessons, for example, if criminal law and innovation are really interesting because you end up talking about things such as the role of AI, which is everywhere right now, and understanding the limitations and the different aspects of that. Gerald, you can probably speak more specifically about the content of this year's course, but institutional considerations, interactions with other areas of the law, they tend to be pretty interesting, even if it wasn't your exact thing. Probably, in my mind, the riskiest one perhaps was smart contracts. That was done at the height of cryptocurrencies and all that, which is still a thing, but not as perhaps as hot as it looked 3 or 4 years ago. And it's one of those things where I think people who didn't necessarily come in with an idea that that would be something they'd want to do, I still found the course to be very rewarding, and the topics were arranged in a way to really engage students no matter what their interests were. Gerald, you found that to be the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can even speak from personal experience. My interest area is communications law, and neither of the topics over the last 2 years have fallen within that purview, right? Last year's was really focused on life sciences patents and in section 1498. This year has been broadly associated with criminal justice, so it's a little bit of a wider net. We've discussed forensic evidence, the surveillance state, algorithmic justice, because algorithms are now being used within processes in the courts. We've talked about things like ransomware and hacking even. So it's been fairly broad, but I will say you shouldn't be deterred if your concern is that the topic for a given year is not going to fall directly within your interest area. I think it's extremely important to kind of broaden your perspectives and realize what's available. But also it helps to fill gaps in your knowledge as well. And I can say personally, I've loved both classes. It's taught me on subject matter that I wasn't extremely familiar with, but I've learned an immense amount. And that's something that you should enjoy because you're engaging with your classmates in that given moment in an area that not all of you are going to be familiar with. So it's a great learning opportunity as well. But it will at least broadly apply to law and technology in some capacity. And so if that's something that interests you, be assured that whatever the topic is for next year, it's something that's going to be engaging, that you will learn from, but we don't know what it's going to be yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Ms. Perucci.
Hi, I had a question about how much of a writing component there is, both in the seminar and just in general, being involved with the journal, if there is any.
The amount of the writing component is sort of at the decision of the faculty member. When I taught it 3 years ago, I had students write reaction papers over the course of the semester, I think 4 of them, which were submitted, I think 24 hours in advance. And frankly, I used them to help teach the class. You know what I mean? I found out where students were thinking, was able to direct questions and to actually draw out as part of the discussion. Be interested to hear, Gerald, you've had 2 experiences now, how that's worked out in the 2 years you've taken it, but there's a lot of discretion. And frankly, it's a fairly new journal. When I did it was only the 3rd time. We were still sort of feeling through our way of how to figure out this is, and so what the ideal model is. And so I don't know that there's a fixed and firm way to do it. Gerald, how's it been the 2 years you've been in the journal?
Yeah, so last year was also reaction papers. We only did 1, however, it was about, I think you had a 3-page paper that you wrote, and then you initiated class discussion on whatever day you were assigned with that affiliated topic. This year has been slightly different in that we structured it so that students would aid in picking the readings for their given week. And then they would actually initiate a presentation and discussion on that topic. So rather than writing a paper, you were actually creating some sort of slide deck where you would give the initial 30-minute presentation on the topic, with the hope that you weren't just summarizing the readings, you were actually providing novel perspectives and ideas in relation to the readings that would then stimulate the discussion. So it's been somewhat varied. I will say in terms of the spring component, that is largely where the editing process and blue booking occurs. That's the standard journal process. One thing we have started to consider as membership has gotten larger, however, is opening the journal up to student comments so that students have the opportunity to submit comments with the potential that they may be published if they're up to the standard of the journal. So that is something that's forthcoming. That is a very significant possibility for next year when you are a potential member. So that would open up additional writing opportunities as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, with that, we won't prolong this any longer. We thank you all for coming. I assume that as this process moves forward, other questions may arise. Here is the contact information for both myself and for Gerald, along with Caroline Olson, who is the managing director for CTIC, who is also happy to answer any questions. If you'd like to see the website, does exist. You see the link here, and we will make this available as part of the publicly available part of the presentation as we go forward. We invite you not to let it end here. Worse is to keep your eyes out for the announcement as it comes through in March. Please let other colleagues know who you think might be interested in participating about the opportunity, and make sure that that's possible for them. And please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions that come up as you think through the process. The questions today remind me always, everyone has a slightly different situation. Things present differently, different angles, and we haven't covered all of them in the general presentation, but my guess is we may have some insight from the experience of students who've been in the same position you have dealt with things in the past. So we'd be delighted to do that. Before I close, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about just a preview, a part of the larger community and the other events we have going on here at CTIC. Gerald, there you go, thank you. Just so you know, to give you a flavor of the kind of events that we do, we actually have a series of events. One is the JLI Symposium itself, which is on Friday, January 28th, which we mentioned is the most directly relevant here. But we also do a series of other types of events. We do career talks from time to time. And on a week from today, Teddy Josephson, who was a Penn Law grad who did the joint degree program, who also got a master's in computer information technology, even though she was an English major, is going to come talk about her work. She's now working at a Silicon Valley firm on technology transactions, having started in New York, having graduated, I think, 3-4 years ago. And we always try to get a mix of people from different perspectives. We had a very senior patent litigator in the fall. We'll do people in different parts, young, old, public, private, and different perspectives, just to give an idea of what that's like. We will also do one in February as a date and a topic to be determined. This is part of my labor of love. I'm determined to say, I didn't know anything about practice at the end of my first year. I'm determined to make sure that students have the opportunity to learn more about what that is. We're planning to do an event late in January as part of at 4:30 p.m. is our usual time spot. And in February, we have it set already, is on race and privacy. These events are open not just to the law school community, but to the broader legal community. And since in the world we live in, they're all online, it's not generally people from Philadelphia, but from across the US. And that's been really a wonderful experience. And then on also at noon on Thursday, February 3rd, we are co-sponsoring with the Federal Society an event on Section 230. For those of you who follow these things, you may know what that is already, but for those of you who don't, this is a statutory provision that gives intermediaries such as Google and Facebook liability immunity from liability, depending on how you construe it, for either a narrow or extremely broad range of possible claims. And it has become the target of both Democrats and Republicans alike, and have been the source of a lot of disputes and discourse. And we're invited, the Federal Society and CTIC has invited Adam Kandub, who is a professor at Michigan State and a Penn Law alum, who has views. They've invited me to be the respondent to him. And even though I regard Adam as a friend, I would say that my views and his views do not completely align, which is the whole reason you pull an event like this together, is not to have people agree with each other, but to engage Why have a university if you're just going to pat each other on the back? You do that to engage. So I think it'll be a pretty interesting thing. We will have career lunches throughout the rest of the semester. We'll do more of these events throughout the semester. And so we invite you to keep your eyes open on the general announcement board, but also CTIC has an email list that you can sign up through through our website to make sure we send a monthly email at the beginning of every month that lists all the activities we do. So it's probably one of the easiest ways to keep track of the things that CTIC does specifically. And with that, I will say thank you to all of you. Encourage you all to apply in March when the opportunity comes around. And please feel free to reach out to us, any of us at any time with any questions that you may have.